Hello, everyone. This is Dan Riley. Major League Baseball finds itself in a lockout almost 3 decades after a players' strike that canceled the World Series in 1994. During the pandemic in 2020, I discussed how tasteless it is for Major League Baseball to bicker over money while all of us deal with the pandemic and its fallout that had us all locked in our homes, losing our mind. Well, clearly the nonsense between Pro Baseball's players union and the game's ownership groups hasn't stopped. I remember back in 2011, comedian Daniel Tosh joked baseball was a labor stoppage away from irrelevance in the U.S., and yeah, this lockout may be what kills baseball. According to CBS, a strike in 1972 lasted 13 days, canceling 86 games. The first owner's lockout happened just a year later. Then in 1976, another lockout lasted 17 days. The list goes on. It feels like every few years from then on, baseball had some kind of labor strife. Baseball's union and owners keep taking the game's fans for granted. I've said this before, this isn't the 50s when baseball was the most popular game in the U.S. Maybe because society is so much more fast-paced and violent now. Maybe it's because baseball has some of the highest salaries for their athletes in sports. I don't know. All we can say for sure is that baseball needs to just stop telling itself it can shut ballpark doors whenever players and their bosses can't agree on where the game's revenue should go. It goes without saying that they're being terribly childish in a time where doctors and nurses in hospitals are struggling with patients dying from COVID on hospital beds and fans dealing with mental illness from being trapped indoors for a year. Just because baseball is so woven into the cultural fabric of sports of the continent of North America doesn't mean the United States and Canada need it. Not after a year or two of a global disaster that pushed us all to the brink. There's really no comparison between the stakes of bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth and the stakes of huge pandemic, too many innocent people killed, and the economy sent into the toilet. The ego of the Major League Baseball Players Association and the game's owners shows they have such an inflated sense of importance and entitlement as far as the game's money goes that, if anything, fans should be striking right now. And I would applaud them. Professional baseball is at a point where it just may have alienated its fans for the last time, and it can only blame itself when the game's revenues start to drop because people don't want to go to the ballpark anymore. And it'll be because of this. This is Dan Riley for Sports Talk on Passionate World Internet Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in, and so long.